Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Incredibles 2, featuring the voices of Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Sarah Vowell, Huck Milner, or Huckleberry as they put him in the credits, Catherine Keener, Bob Odenkirk, Samuel Jackson, Sophia Bush, and Brad Bird, and funny thing is, directed by Brad Bird. Now, before I get into this review, I'm just going to say it right now. I'm sorry, but I'm wearing the wrong shirt for the wrong movie. Don't judge me. I just threw it on this morning. But I don't, to be confessionably honest, I don't have any shirts required to Incredibles, but let's talk about that later. So I did see the movie in IMAX at a double feature, showing the first one, which I reviewed recently, leading up to the new movie on Wednesday night. And what did I think of it then versus now? Well, I haven't seen it twice, but I wish I did. But let's just get right into this. The movie opens with Violet's crush, Tony Reidinger, getting his memory erased from what he saw from Violet, and I'll get there in a few minutes. But it sets up what's going to happen midway through the movie, and it makes sense before we catch up with the Parr family. The next scene is going to start the movie with how the first one ended, with Mr. Incredible, aka Bob Parr, returned voice of Craig T. Nelson, Elastigirl, aka Helen Parr, returning voice of Holly Hunter, Violet, return voice Sarah Vowell, Dash, voiced by Huck Milner or Huckleberry, Frozone, aka Lucius Best, returning voice of Samuel Jackson, and Jack, whom we learn his powers later in the film, and I'll talk about it when I get there, stopping the Underminer from destroying the city, and it reveals to Tony who Violet really is as a superhero. And I like the look on her face when she takes off the mask and shows Tony accidentally, and his face was his face was absolutely hilarious. And both of their faces I felt were hilarious. I liked the first action sequence between the Incredibles and the Underminer. It was fast-paced and done very well. The Incredibles get arrested and they get interrogated by detectives who want to stick to the law. Supers are illegal, and Frozone gets stopped by Winston Deaver, voiced by Bob Odenkirk, who believes in superheroes and wants to recruit him, as well as Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl, while the Parr family stay at a hotel for 2 weeks. That was a great way to get the plot started. We, as well as the characters, get introduced to Winston and his sister Evelyn, voiced by Catherine Keener, and it took me a while to realize that it was her voice on Evelyn, but I swear I thought when we were introduced to them, I thought the plan was going to be ran by Winston, because he has a face whom I think is evil. But I'll talk about that at the end of the show. But they hire Elastigirl while Mr. Incredible babysits the kids, and I like those characters and what will lead to the evil plan. And thank God Mr. Incredible is taking care of the family, because it shows what a good father he is. And the funny thing is, today's Father's Day, so please forgive me for that. I love the house that Winston gives to the Parrs for Elastigirl's job, and I love the scene when Dash pushes the buttons and he runs off like, I didn't do it! And I thought that was very clever. Elastigirl goes on her first mission since the glory days and stops a train from going backwards, and who's controlling this? The screenslaver. And I love the voice he uses. It sounds super menacing. I also love the Elasticycle. That was a neat design. Meanwhile, Bob witnesses Jack having powers on fire and being a monster, and has laser eyes and can be invisible. And his first fight was a raccoon, which was super funny. And Violet's date with Tony, well, he doesn't have memory of who Violet is, because Rick Dicker, voiced by Jonathan Banks, wiped out his memory at the beginning of the film. And Tony reveals he's never met Violet, and she's upset, which will lead Violet to hating who she is, and tries to destroy her uniform, which was hilarious. when the scenes with Bob and the kids come in, it leads more to more hilarious moments of the film. For example, Lucius coming to the house and witnessing Jack having powers later in the film, and I laughed at Lucius's reaction. And also, the scene where Bob was taking Violet and Dash and Jack to the restaurant that Tony works at. For some reason, for a Pixar film, they're mildly cursing. Like, I heard "oh my god" a couple of times, and I heard "hell," and I think I heard a "damn" at one point. I could be wrong, but it just felt I just felt it was unnecessary for a PG-rated Pixar film. Like, didn't DreamWorks do that with the first Shrek? Meanwhile, on a scene where I think I heard hell, we get introduced to Void, voiced by Sophia Bush, who I really like as an actress, as well as Crush Shower and Hellitrix, both voiced by Paul Lamar, and Reflux, voiced by Paul Eiding, and I really like those characters. Bob hasn't slept for days, and takes Jack to be babysitted by Edna Mode, returning voice of Brad Bird. And she falls in love with Jack as well as his powers, and when she introduces Bob to his suit, it was intriguing to watch, and again, cute and clever. So we find out, and spoiler alert, Evelyn was in on the screenslaver after Elastigirl puts a pizza guy who was wearing that suit and mask earlier in the film into prison, and he had no memory of this. And really, she's the one who's done it, and she wants supers to be illegal forever. And I liked that Fooled You moment because I thought it was written Winston the entire time. And before any of that, well, Void and the other heroes almost kidnap the kids, but captures Frozone, bringing back the Incredicar, was clever because we thought it was gone forever in the first film. Remember that Incredicar that Mr. Incredible had at the beginning of the film? Of the first one, let me rephrase that. He thought it was destroyed a long time ago. And that's how the kids will go on there and use it as a ship. And Mr. Incredible and the kids get into the screen, as well as Frozone, and we thought it was forever gone in the film. We were wrong, and I'm glad about that. The action in the house was fun. And where am I? So her plan is to get Frozone, Mr. Incredible, and the kids into the screen, and all that is important, and all the important people on the ship, and the kids get on there by the Incredicar, like I said before. And everyone takes off the glasses of the screenslaver and find a way to get the ship back to normal speed, and Elastigirl catches up with Evelyn on an airplane, which did remind me of Captain America the First Avenger, the scene where he fights the Red Skull at the end of that movie. But she does catch Evelyn and gets her arrested, and the giant ship lands on some ice that Frozone, so nobody got hurt and no damages took place, and the court decides to make supers legal again. I liked that ending, I have to be honest with you guys. As well as Violet introducing herself to Tony, and they go to the movies, like she suggested at the end of the first film. And they fight some robbers after Tony gets dropped off at the theater, and saving Violet a seat in the movie theater, and setting up for a part 3 was just fun. And before I get to my recommendation, I must say, before the film started, there was this short called Bao, like B-A-O, like a Japanese food thing, or Korean food, whatever that was. And that really made me cry. I was depressed after that while watching this movie, but that's for another day. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.7 out of 10. Not quite as good as the first film, and there were some clever moments in the film, and I like the first one. This is just fun to watch, and it has some funny moments in there as well. See the film and have fun with it, And if you grew up with this movie, well, the first movie, let me rephrase that, then you'll have a good time with this one. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Incredibles retrospective series. And until next time, get super!